Hello everyone. I'm very sorry I can't join you in Singapore for International Energy Week, where I know you're discussing some of the most significant issues facing the world today and for many generations to come. I am of course referring to the drive to tackle climate change by getting the world onto a low carbon path whilst maintaining economic competitiveness and securing a steady energy supply for the future. In Asia and across the world, many areas of economic activity are underpinned by a steady energy supply. Securing stable sources of energy is therefore vitally important. These challenges face every one of us, and we can only tackle them if countries work together for that low-carbon future. I founded the Breaking the Climate Deadlock initiative with the Climate Group 18 months ago, to work specifically with world leaders to build a new consensus for a comprehensive international climate policy framework. Clean technology development and transfer is a key part of the solution. Major carbon emission reductions are achievable even by 2020 if we focus action on certain key technologies, deploy policies that have already been proven to work, and invest now for the development of those future technologies that are going to take time to mature. So if we invest in such technologies now, we will reap the benefits in the future, both environmental and economic. Just as investing in electrification, railways, and the internet led to economic growth in the past, I believe investing in clean energy can help reignite the global economy now and also help provide the energy security this continent needs. With the necessary decisions now, I think there is a credible, practical, realistic, as well as radical way to act. Not only is this vital that each and every one of you continue to act, but that we all act together. No one country can tackle climate change on its own. The challenge remains formidable, but it is doable. This is not mission impossible. And just as this great continent has grasped the opportunities of the global economy in years gone by, it can grasp now the opportunities of collective global action on climate change. So good luck with your deliberations this week and the actions you take in the future. Thank you.
I think Mr. Blair touches on some very critical themes there, just ahead of the Copenhagen climate change talks. And what really struck me from his address that you just heard was his optimism. The task ahead is formidable but doable, he said. Now, overcoming those challenges no doubt will be a topic of discussion that we will broach with Dr. Yergin later on this morning. But foremost amongst them, in my opinion, is the burden of responsibility on cutting those greenhouse gas emissions. Who carries the bulk? Is it the developed or is it the developing countries? And how do you achieve those cuts in greenhouse gas emissions without impeding economic growth, which is a critical issue for developing countries like China and India? But again, the task of policymakers in combating climate change is complicated by the overarching theme of the global economic environment. Yes, the message from APEC was that we seem to be exiting recession, but we're awaiting still a durable economic recovery. So at a time when the economy is still fragile, will governments really want to commit right now to binding targets on emissions? Clearly, these are topics of debate that we can broach at our Q&A and with Dr. Yergin later on. Now, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our speaker today is Dr. Daniel Yergin, the founder and chairman of IHS Cambridge Energy Research Associates. He's a renowned author, speaker, and economic researcher. He really needs no introduction. And he's the man behind the acclaimed volume, The Prize, The Epic Quest for Oil, Money and Power, neither of which I have. I have a little bit of money, but not a lot. And that won him the Pulitzer Prize. In fact, the new edition is out, he reminds me, so do pick it up. And I also want to say he's been a very good friend of CNBC's and a familiar face on the network since he's our station's global energy expert. So it's good to see him again in the flesh. Now, he also has under his belt the United States Energy Award for lifelong achievements in energy and the promotion of international understanding. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado now, please let me introduce and join me in welcoming Dr. Yergin.
We're still at the beginning of the 21st century. This first decade is not even over. Yet I have a question for you and a prediction. The 20th century was a century of oil. What will the 21st century be? Another century of oil? A century of natural gas? A century of renewables? We don't know the specifics, but I will argue that the 21st century is going to be the century of energy innovation. And that is what I'm going to take as my theme for the Singapore International Energy Lecture. It surely is an honor to be here. I want to thank the Energy Market Authority and the Energy Studies Institute. Again, to say to Chairman Chanlei Fung and to Lawrence Wong, the Chief Executive of the EMA, we're very glad that you did not cancel this, but rather had the foresight to see how important this gathering is and to enable us all to come together. I also very much appreciate the very gracious and warm welcome here. Singapore International Energy Week provides an opportunity to bring energy leaders together from around the world, and it's all the more timely this year because it's in conjunction with the APEC meeting. It demonstrates the growing weight of Asia in the world economy, and it demonstrates the regional and global leadership of Singapore and its proven track record of thinking deeply about the future, preparing for the future, and most importantly, acting upon that. It's particularly important and appropriate that we're here considering these questions because really I think it's fair to say, putting on a historian's hat, that Singapore has been Asia's energy crossroads since the first shipment of oil arrived here in 1892. We're all very mindful, and it adds to my honor of being here, that the inaugural Singapore Energy Lecture was delivered last year by the Minister Mentor himself, Lee Kuan Yew, who admonished us to remember as a sort of fundamental principle, and certainly a man who sees fundamental principles, that we have to accept, he said last year, that we are all passengers in this common planet Earth, and that is our starting point. This also inaugurates the Singapore Energy Forum, which is formed by a partnership with the Energy Market Authority and the Government of Singapore and IHS-CIRA to foster informed and independent discussion on central issues facing policy and strategy for this region. It's an ongoing dialogue, and it will respond as issues evolve and as they unfold. And that certainly is the opportunity that's provided for us this week by the International Energy Week, as it embodies thought leadership on energy and seeks to bring together, as we've already heard, these two great themes of energy and the environment. But we realize that there's a third element. It's an element that's taken for granted in good times, but not in these times, not after the gut-wrenching experience of the last year and a half, and that, of course, is the economy.